Hypothalamus, as you can see here, is shown in this region. It forms the floor of the third ventricle. The ventricles contain cerebrospinal fluid, which hold nutrients and ions to nourish the tissues. A way to locate the hypothalamus is to look for this pituitary gland, and you'll know it'll be superior and posterior to it. The hypothalamus is connected to the pituitary gland by a stalk called the infundibulum. Infundibulum. The hypothalamus produces oxytocin. This is stored in the posterior pituitary gland, and during childbirth, it is released and it'll target the uterus and it'll cause uterus contractions. Now, as the contractions occur, it'll cause more oxytocin to be released. This is a positive feedback mechanism. There are 3 positive feedback mechanisms. This is one of them. The other 2 are blood clotting and runaway fever. Thermoregulation, thyrotropin releasing hormone, produced by the hypothalamus, travels to the anterior pituitary gland, causing the release of thyroid stimulating hormone, which goes to the thyroid gland. And if you're cold, it will increase the metabolic rate. Because no reaction is 100% efficient, that'll produce heat. It'll do the opposite if you're too warm. It'll slow down the metabolic rate. Water balance, anti-diuretic hormone. A diuretic causes you to lose water. Anti-diuretic causes you to retain water. Anti, against. Produced by the hypothalamus, stored in the posterior pituitary gland. When blood pressure drops, this will be released from the posterior pituitary gland, target the kidneys, and cause the kidneys to retain water, increase the blood volume. Because blood pressure is a pressure against arterial walls, and greater volume will increase that pressure. Corticotropin releasing hormone, produced by the hypothalamus, goes to the anterior pituitary, causing a release of adrenocorticotropic hormone, which will target the adrenal cortex of the adrenal gland. Gonadotropin releasing hormone, produced by the hypothalamus, goes to the anterior pituitary, causing the release of gonadotropins, follicle stimulating hormone, and luteinizing hormone. Growth hormone releasing hormone, produced by the hypothalamus, goes to the anterior pituitary, causes the release of growth hormones. Prolactin inhibiting hormone, produced by the hypothalamus, goes to the anterior pituitary. Review of key hormones. Oxytocin, produced by the hypothalamus, stored in the posterior pituitary during childbirth, is released and causes uterus contractions, which causes more oxytocin to be released in a positive feedback mechanism. Thus, the contractions become more frequent in less time. Thermoregulation, thyrotropin releasing hormone, produced by the hypothalamus, goes to the anterior pituitary, causes the release of thyroid stimulating hormone, targeting the thyroid gland, which is shown here. Water balance, anti-diuretic hormone, produced by the hypothalamus, stored in the posterior pituitary gland. When blood pressure drops, released from the posterior pituitary gland, targets the kidneys to retain water, increasing the blood volume, increasing the blood pressure. One last key point. The hypothalamus is connected to the anterior pituitary by a portal of blood vessels. The hypothalamus is connected to the posterior pituitary by nerve tracts. Thank you for joining me today.